All right. So we'll go ahead and get it started. And as people pop in, they should join muted. So you got the floor, man.
Awesome, man. So, I guess, did you just want me to start off with a couple of the things that I've had on my mind, and then you can chime in how you'd like to?
Yeah, go ahead and introduce
Cool.
yourself and where you're
Perfect.
at, all that fun jazz,
Perfect.
and go from there.
Perfect, man. Yeah. So, Dr. Taylor Frederick out in Raleigh, North Carolina. I've been practicing for about 2 years now, and I guess to start off, we had like pretty. One of the things, like the first point I wanted to talk about is that we grew pretty fast. I worked real hard. I did a lot of aggressive marketing because I moved here from Kansas City. Like you guys know, I went to school with you guys, so I didn't have any family or friends or anything. We kind of moved out here because of my wife's extended family, and they've done almost nothing to help get the business going and stuff like that. Which it is what it is. But one of the things that we had to do is I kind of entered with the philosophy, almost opposite of Jess's from last session, that you can spend time or you can spend money to grow the business. And I had 2 young kids. I was a newlywed at the time, moving across the country where I don't know many people. I didn't sink my roots for a couple years in the area, so I put in as much groundwork as I could with 2 kids under 2, and a wife trying to adapt to a new scenario and that kind of stuff. But decided to spend more money than time to try to go the business, which kind of had pros and cons. Pros is we grew pretty fast and we started making overhead pretty quick. Within the first year and a half, we were seeing 120, 150 patient visits a week, which is fantastic. That was a great experience seeing getting used to seeing that many people, checking to see for lack of a better word, my capacity as a doctor to see am I capable of, mentoring the health of this many individuals. And the the con of that was, though, which is kind of ties into what Jess spoke on, which I took because I took some good notes from her last week, is that uh, the growth of my practice wasn't really centered around my truth. It was centered around the marketing and the quantity thing. And the busier we got, the more I felt like I had to change what I believed in and change kind of what I expected from my patients. And I was beating my head against a wall because they weren't being attracted to me. So the first thing I wanted to bring up today is that I think it's really important to zone in on who your truth is. That's funny. Zone in on who your who your truth, what your truth is, but then find ways to defend that, protect your fire, and zero in on what your ideal patient is. Because when you have a clear vision of that, I have a firm belief that the universe is going to bring those people in. So I think this COVID thing was actually a blessing to my office because we ended up having about 2/3 of our patient volume drop between February and March, which was tight. But we've almost tripled our office numbers again exclusively from in-house referrals and website finds between March and now June. So we're back pretty much to where we were pre-COVID numbers. No marketing, and it's purely based, and the people that are in now are the ones that get the truth that I'm putting out there. They're the ones that understand that, I rarely hear hey doc, it hurts here every single visit. You know what I mean? It's the ones that are trying to make lifestyle changes, trying to have preventative health, that kind of stuff. So all of the people that left my practice because of this pandemic stuff were the ones that maybe I wasn't the right doctor for. Maybe there was a better fit at a different chiropractor's office or something like that. But either way, the more I focused on my truth and the more I focused on protecting it and taking care of it, the more people came in looking for that truth. I heard a good quote, maybe about 8 or 9 months ago or something like that, that was, you're going to be the last one to know when you make it in your community. You know what I mean? It's not like people are going to tell you along the way, dude, I heard 4 people at the bar talking about your office or something like that. You know what I mean? So you just got to show up, speak your truth, do everything you can for every person that walks in. And if nothing else, as long as they know that you're being honest with them and you're there and you own what you're saying, the ripples will happen and the right people are going to find those ripples.
Oh, that's awesome. I never heard that quote before, but that's a neat quote. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
man.
that's So that's definitely something that I've struggled with, and I'm sure most chiropractors, when they first get out, as we were saying before the talk, I had a very, what I thought, clear idea of how I wanted to practice, and it definitely determined what I did in school. And
Totally.
to be honest, as we were saying before, I felt like it kind of set me back because now there's some things that I wish I could do, and I can't because I don't know how to do them. And now I'm like, cool, now I have to go learn how to do them, and it's definitely something that I wish I would have spent more time on in school, is figuring out what do I want, like how do I want to practice,
Hmm.
because what I want to do is not the same as what somebody else is doing.
I am
Totally.
kicking myself for
Yeah.
not pressing more into that when we had time to do it.
Yeah,
Right.
well,
You know,
and the funny thing is like I had people tell me that, right? Same exact thing. I dug my head into the sand a little bit. I spread myself out just a little bit, but it was still never enough. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I felt like I was doing a lot, but I mean, if I was to be a student again, man, I would push this, get do more than you think is necessary because
it's
that's the ticket.
it was so hard though. I mean, we all know what it was like to be in school, you
Heck yeah,
know,
man.
and then you add children into it like this one.
Yeah, what's
Um, you
up?
know, stealing you goose. You add kids into it, and or marriage or whatever it is. Like, I mean, it's hard. It's really hard.
Totally agree
Not
with
that
you, man.
that's not that that's an excuse by any means, but
Hmm.
it's like, oh wow, you stink. Cool. Um, but also, cool. Mom's gonna change your diaper. Um,
Nice.
they can't smell it. Um, oh, um, it's like you don't even know. Like you don't know what you don't know, right? I hate
That's
that
the
saying,
truth.
but it's so true. Like you don't know
I
what
hate
you
it.
don't know. When I got out of school, I was like, I thought in my head I wanted to be, similar to Pinnacle, like high volume, um, seeing a lot of patients, doing a lot of good, all that kind of stuff. And then as I'm getting closer to the end of school, I'm like, I'm not opening my own practice straight out of school. I don't have the money to do this, and I'm not going to go get a fat loan to go. Like I just spent $400,000 on school.
Yeah.
Like who's going to give me another, whatever chunk of money to go open my business?
Yep.
On top of the fact that I moved into one of the most expensive areas in the entire country, so that didn't help either. Um, but then I go and work in a clinic, and it's a sports rehab clinic, and it was like the most fun I've ever had in my entire life.
That's awesome,
And I
man.
was like, holy cow, to like actually see, like I love sports, I've always been in sports, but to actually do like combine chiropractic with rehab and and they were a integrity group,
Awesome.
which also didn't like, but they're like, it was a lot of learning is what it was, and
Yeah.
I figured out, oh, after the fact, oh, this is stuff that I really do enjoy. But
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they call it, I've heard this a million times too, and I kind of hate it. They call it practice for a reason.
I
Right?
know. Yeah.
But it's like, that sounds to me, I'm like, that sounds like such a disservice to my patient. But I mean, it takes time. It takes a lot of time to figure all this stuff out, like figure out, how to best treat your patient. And it's not the same thing. Like you
No.
said, you've had those patients that were like, I'm there, and now they're in a different location, and it's like maybe I wasn't the right
Oh yeah.
chiropractor. It
Totally.
took me 2 years to kind of start to wrap my head around that. I know how I want to practice and how, like, the patients that I want and the way that I practice, I'm either going to attract those patients and they're going to stay, or they'll come to me for a visit or two and be like, nah, that's not what I want. And it's like, that's
Totally
fine.
agree.
That's what I want to do. If you go to somebody else to get help, that's all that I care about.
Absolutely, man. I'd rather somebody go to a chiropractor than no chiropractor. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Absolutely.
Whether I agree with them or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I mean, because I mean, I feel the exact same way about a lot of that stuff. I mean, I've changed a little bit, and I'm still, my goal is still striving towards that high volume stuff. I've just realized, and the second point I was gonna make is that like everything it's gonna happen at its own pace. You know what I mean? Like I graduated, and it's funny looking back how confident I was when I left school, and looking back on it now, like how I guess unprepared for that amount of people I was, and it's 100% what I just told you guys a second ago when I was hitting like 150, 160 visits a week and that kind of stuff, which is, I mean, super grateful, a lot of people. I mean, I honestly felt like I was not worthy to be a doctor to that many people on a regular basis. You know what I mean? And like it was a gut check. I mean, it was like I'd forget somebody's name and I'd like beat myself up over it or something like that. You know what I mean? Or like somebody would be like, oh, one of my CAs would say, you know, do you remember this new patient from like 2 days ago? And I'm like, I seriously don't at all. And like that was a huge gut check because the level of my connection, the level of like all those things for me wasn't where it needed to be. And that was something like once I like freed myself from those chains of like trying to force a pace that other people go through into what my life was, like then like practice has been way more fun. Things have been a lot better. And one of the things that has happened because of how this kind of like the whole demographic has changed so much in my practice is like it feels like there's so much less pressure to show up anymore. Like I have more security now than I've ever had that patients are going to be there. And I have more fun talking to the patients, more like even in the brief interactions and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And it's a combination of like I feel worthy again, and I feel like, you know, the people that are in there are the ones that are here to sing my song or listen to my song. Because one of my favorite Tim Young quotes is that like when you go to your office, you got to be playing your song, nobody else's. Like you don't go buy tickets to the Rolling Stones and have them sing Aerosmith covers or something like that, you know what I mean? Like no, you want to hear the Rolling Stones music, you know what I mean? Like people don't want to go to your office and hear some shitty cover of a different band. You know what I mean? They want to hear your music.
You got to repeat that quote again. So I didn't know.
Yeah. So people want to go to your office and hear your song. Like you don't go to a Rolling Stones concert and look for Aerosmith covers or something like that, right? They don't want to go to you and expect somebody else's version of chiropractic. They want your version of chiropractic. You know what I mean?
And I will say, so as I've been kind of experimenting, if you will, with how I wanted to practice, there's definitely one thing that I'm seeing over and over again in a lot of these different offices, and it doesn't matter what style you do or anything like that. It's yes, you do a certain style of chiropractic. Say you have a management group that you follow to their procedures. In that, though, the only reason people stay, they don't stay for Integrity or Pinnacle or any of these other ones. They stay for you. You are the reason that they come in. So even inside of that, in a Pinnacle and any of those type of offices, you still need to be you. You need to be yourself, and that's one thing that didn't see. Like I was completely oblivious. I'm like, I'm gonna be a Pinnacle office. Might as well just name my office Pinnacle Chiropractic, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And so like I'm like, I'm gonna do this. This is how I'm gonna do everything. And I was so narrow-minded into how to do it that I just got lost in the procedures, didn't make it me, and it felt ingenuine. And I feel like people can see through that.
That
Yeah.
I think, and I don't know how to hijack this by any. Nice, Steele. Thanks. Get your nose out of the
That's
camera.
nice, man. I like that.
Clean, clean.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't. That was one of my that was one of my struggles when I was with that integrity clinic was, like having my own identity, but then saying you have to do it this way. Like you have to say these words. You have to do. You know, like
Yeah.
okay, but this doesn't jive with this clinic and how it operates. Like you guys don't do these things. Like you're a performance rehab based clinic, and you're talking about, you know, like you're specifically talking about subluxations and like, you know, classic, if you will, kind of the dogmatic chiropractic side of this stuff. But, like, but you guys don't practice this way. And that's been a big struggle of mine. I think even with owning my own clinic now has been, hey, can you keep it down? Thanks. Has been like still trying to find like my identity in that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know how I want to practice. Like I want to practice how I got better. You know, what actually helped me get better, and I know you can help people get better. You know, I did I did like the high volume type treatments when I was back in Kansas City, and they never really actually got me better. And then I finally actually did a rehab stint as well with it, and implemented that into my daily life, and that's what finally made the difference. I'm like, holy crap! Like I want to be able to help people the same way that I got helped. And I know that's not for everybody, and I don't care. That's fine. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, that's cool.
I've got AK practitioners around me. I've got, what the heck, the little gun.
Oh, activator.
Yeah. I've got what's Josh do? No, it's chiropractic biophysics, CBP.
Yeah, CVP.
You know, like, I mean, there's so much stuff around me. It's like, I get it. Like, if I'm not the one for you, that's fine. But,
Yeah.
but you know, but anyway, and that's kind of been like my hindrance, has been trying to figure out that mesh between, like, which sounds to me like you figured this out. You know, is that mesh between, like, you know, how I combine this stuff. Like, I don't want to say, you know, the same stuff over and over and over again. Or as far as like a new patient comes in, I repeat the exact same script to them. Like,
Yeah.
It's not genuine to me.
Totally.
But at the same time, I guess
She's
it
got an
doesn't have
opinion
to be
too.
the same. Yeah, she does. It doesn't have to be the same thing, but I guess where I've lacked is in that systems aspect of it.
Totally agree.
There's definitely a
But
need for some of it.
Exactly, and that's to me where I mean, in all reality, that is what you get from you know, Pinnacle, Integrity, those things, and that is like what you said, Nick. As far as, like, you know, I tried to be that, you know, and it was like I had patients that were coming to see me for my care and the treatment that I could give, not because we were Integrity. They didn't care if it was Integrity or Pinnacle or whatever it was. They wanted the care, the treatment, whatever that was.
It's true.
And we were able to give that to them, you know, in that other clinic. And same thing, I have that here. It's just I don't have the same systems as what I had, you know, because it drove me so far the other direction that I think it was almost bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. One, like, that kind of ties into one of the next things I was going to talk about is that, like, the technique doesn't necessarily matter so much. I got a really interesting story that I heard on a podcast today that I'll link here as well. But because I had two things today that pretty tremendously changed what I was planning on talking to you guys about today. both. So, which is interesting. The video is talking about, like, you know, the technique doesn't necessarily matter as much as the like intention and the tone behind it, because this guy. So there's a kind of an origin story. Have you guys ever heard of a chiropractor named Josh Wagner before? Because I hadn't.
I feel like I've heard that name.
So he does some speaking, and that's basically all I know about him at this point. I heard his name today. And so anyways, he was talking about how he got into chiropractic. He was a 20-year-old student in New York, and he was going to two different chiropractors, depending on where he was in at the city at a time, on a weekly basis. And both of them, he was not studying chiropractic, and both of them in the same week told him, like, hey, you check out chiropractic. And he's like, yeah, I've been thinking about it or whatever. And they're like, if you're considering going to be a chiropractor, you have to go see Pasquale, is all they said. And they gave him an address. And they said, you have to go see this guy, or you're going to go to Brooklyn, like the sketchy part of Brooklyn. And there's going to be this house. At 7:15 p.m., the door is going to be open. You got to go into the door and go down into the basement. There's going to be one set of stairs downstairs. You go down there and you be quiet and you do nothing. And this guy's like, what's going to happen to me? So he goes into the stairwell and he goes down. He's there at the right time. He doesn't see anybody when he gets there. And then he gets down there, and there's rows of these, like, church pews in front of like chalkboards. About 10 minutes goes by, and this old man, who turns out to be about 92 years old, starts walking out. And it was this guy whose first name was Pasquale, and he was a chiropractor in Brooklyn, had one of the trippiest practice models I've heard of. He said he practiced for years, like 40, 50 years in Brooklyn, out of his house, 7 days a week. And he had two adjusting rooms, a $2 room and a $5 adjusting room. And the only difference was you got to skip the line if you paid $5 for it. But anyways, this dude's mantra that he told all of these chiropractors, because everybody that was there at this meeting, if this whatever, it was every Thursday night, was chiropractors, patients, and CAs. The only people that worked there, or were at this thing. And his mantra that he said over and over and over again was tone over bone. It's not necessarily like where you adjust or what you're doing to that bone. It's the intention and the belief and the philosophy that you're entering with. He's like, that's the reason why there's so many techniques and they all work, right? It's because as long as your intention's there, that's the foundation. You know what I mean? Like, if you're adjusting and you're coming at that segment with the right intention, all the focus in the world, you're trying to do what you need to, and you're not distracted, whatever. I mean, you could almost do anything, right? Because that's why there's so many techniques. You can, as long as you're moving that bone and stimulating innate, I mean, people are going to heal.
And that's another thing that I feel like is also very widespread throughout all these different groups and organizations, is that it's whatever if your intention is there, you will get patients better. And that's why tone and intention are two of the biggest things I feel like in a chiropractor's office.
Totally
Your
agree.
tone, yeah, your tone needs to be, and the hardest part I feel like of the tone is meeting the patient where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually just verbal communication, the tone with them. But once you get them face down, it's all about your tone and intent.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, that's when you turn on. And out of all of these different people that I've been looking at, especially like with that zone technique, that's what I get from that, is that it's your intentions on what you're trying to do. And if you have bad intentions, it's going to be a bad adjustment. If you're thinking
Mm-hmm.
about something outside of the office, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why I've heard for years, you need to check yourself at the door when you walk in. Hang up all of your emotions and everything from your home life, and you need to put your doctor hat on because it's time to get to work.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like another, I mean, hate to keep ripping a bunch of Tim Youngisms, but he's got some good one-liners. But
You're good,
he's
man.
he's like, when you're adjusting somebody, you should have imagine that there's a billboard projecting all of your thoughts in the front lobby that all of your patients waiting there and your staff can see. You know, like if you're thinking other thoughts or if you're not focused, you know, like, well, you know, like I wonder what, you know, the sports teams are doing, you know, whatever, the Golden State Warriors, I wonder if they're playing. Man, this whole COVID thing's bullshit. I hate wearing masks, all that kind of stuff. But that's what you're thinking, and that's projected. Man, you're not in the moment. You know what I mean? Like you're not focused, and people are seeing that. If you're imagining that scenario where like everything you're thinking of gets projected, and you're zoned in more for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm. So that's I mean, that was another thing that came up today because it ties into something that I previously had written down, and this is a meism. Whew, here we go. So there's I'm a pretty firm believer in that there's 4 aspects of healing, and they all need to be present. Otherwise, uh, patients will not get better. So I think there needs, like, the easy one is that you have to be present and you have to be there at the office. Like there is your presence and your physical manifestation of attempt of healing, your adjustment, your presence at the office. The second, we're kind of going in least important to most important in my opinion. The second is the patient's presence with some kind of physical commitment, whether it's financial, whether they're just driving in to show up at the office, maybe they're in an MVA and you still have to just get them to the office. There has to be their physical commitment. The next thing, in my opinion, is your belief in what you're doing. So the intangible thing that you bring to, I think, is the next most important. Your belief, your focus, your tone, your philosophy, all that kind of stuff, your understanding. And then I think the most important is the patient's belief in what you do and what you bring to the table. And that, whether that comes with sprinkling in some certainty, just giving them hope, the tone that you speak to them with, the presence that you have as a doctor. But I'm a pretty firm believer that if you can't get them to, you know, for lack of a better word, take the bait and, you know, get ready, get on board, you could give the best adjustment in the world with all the belief in the world. But if they actively hate everything that's going to happen and they don't want to heal for the, you know, 23 hours and 45 minutes that they're not in your office every day, I don't think they're going to heal. So one thing that I've spent a lot of time on is meeting people, exactly what you said, meeting people where they're at on day one, asking them that intangible thing. Because, like, what do we do as chiropractors, right? We say that we give them back their life. And what is that? It's not like we're adding years to their life per se, but we're adding life back to their life. You know, what is it that they're trying to get back to? What is it that they're missing out on? I mean, we hear it in school. I mean, talk about how they want to play with their grandkids again. They want to run that 5K. They want to, lift that weight overhead because the right arm keeps getting stuck on the bench press or something. You know what I mean? And like, tying your treatment recommendations to some thing that they want. Like, I'm suffering with my neck pain and it's keeping me from playing video
Wow.
games or something. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, once you have that and you're like, perfect, and day 2, we're going to get you back to playing video games, but here's how we have to get that done. And you're using their words to incentivize them, because otherwise you're, telling them to run without them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, once you get their belief, and I mean, it's not manipulation, it's just using, like, getting to what they want out of care, like, because cool pain relief, that's such a superficial motivator. You know what I mean? Like, what is it that this symptom is getting in the way of? You know what I mean? That's what I've been working towards uncovering, and I mean, I guess strategizing with on day 1 and day 2.
Yeah, and that's again something that I've heard more recently from I don't know if you guys know him, but Brad Myler. He is a Pinnacle Doc in Iowa, and this guy's on another level, man. If you ever have a conversation with him, super intelligent. He thinks like I've nobody else that I've ever met, but he's a firm believer that their healing starts once you first contact them. As soon as you first talk to them on the consult, that's when it starts happening. And the way that you convey what you're going to be doing and how you're going to be helping them, they should start healing as soon as you're done with your exam, and you're going to tell them we're going to get you better, and it's only a matter of time. But the other thing that I liked about what you said is the pain, and I feel like so many times in school we always linked their pain every day. Like we always ask them, how's your pain today, what's the level at, blah blah blah. If you constantly are reminding them of their pain when they come to your office, they're going to constantly be thinking about their pain. So if you remove that, guarantee you, as they start to get better and better and better, they're gonna just be like, I don't even know why I came in here, but
Mm-hmm.
this is awesome. And they're
100%.
they're not gonna think about it anymore. So the only time that you should be bringing up pain is on the first initial visit and any kind of follow-up exams. How's your pain doing today? And that's one of the things that I started looking into a lot of Glowacki stuff. He even says on his day 2, this is the last time that we're going to talk about pain until we do a follow-up. So I will not be asking you, how's your pain today? I don't want you to think that that's because I don't care. It's just because we have other things to focus on.
I like
So
that.
yeah, it's one of the things that I've tried, and I still struggle with, because I struggle with talking too much. I'm not fully there, but
Yeah.
I talk too much, and then it's really easy as soon as you open your mouth to eventually get to a point where you're like, so how's your back pain? How's the neck pain? How's the headaches? How's the migraine?
Mhm.
And if you just keep it, and it's one of the things that I do like about certain groups is it's just don't say anything that you don't need to. The more you
Mhm.
talk, the more you're going to give them a reason to not like you. Number one.
Absolutely.
So, I like that, man.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, that's one of my newer projects working on, and like just trying to, I don't know. And this is another thing. Maybe I'm overcomplicating it, but I've been doing this for a couple of months now. And again, my practice has grown a lot, and my referrals are twice as much as they were the all of last year so far. So I mean, maybe there's a little truth in what I'm doing, or maybe I just own my truth. But I mean, the other thing that I've been doing is like day one, man. I've been like I mean, people. There's so many people that come into my office that have no fucking clue what a chiropractor is, and like they YouTube it, and I'm like, man, all the crazy stuff's on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like that's not what you're gonna get here. I mean, they're just looking for a big old noise, and then that's not healing. You know what I mean? So what I tell people on the first day is that, you know, today what we're going to do is I say I've sort of saying a couple of things is that like today on day one, what we're going to do is I got to get to know you, and I got to figure out what your goals are. When you come back, then we'll get you feeling a little bit better today, because I don't want you leaving here the same way that you walked in. But tomorrow when you come in, we're going to talk about how I'm going to help you accomplish those goals. Then every visit thereafter is just going to be getting after those same things. And I tell them that I compare it a lot to like wearing a braces and wearing a retainer, because we got to fix stuff and get things moving, get things like they're supposed to. And then I said the most important part is like wearing a retainer, because you know good and well that if you don't wear your retainer, your braces didn't do anything. You know what I mean? So the retainer, you know, we'll do some stuff, make sure it doesn't come back, talk about the maintenance, that kind of transition. But I mean, there's a couple of points where I'm getting them to like understand. I mean, I plant maintenance seeds day one, because I don't want maintenance to be sprung on them, you know, visit 24 or visit 18, whenever you get to the point of them being healed in your book, right? Like I want them to understand that like, just like you never not get oil changes, or you never not get dental cleanings, like you need to, like some of the stuff that they're going through is because they never saw a chiropractor. And my goal is to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's another thing that if you haven't, you should look into some of Glowacki stuff, man.
Yeah, well,
He has some amazing seminars, and to be honest, out of everybody that I've ever like gone and listened to, I love him. He comes in and he just starts dropping F bombs, and
I,
I feel like when somebody's like that, they're being real with me, and I'm like, let's do this, man.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I swear in front of my patients, and it's not because I don't think that's unprofessional. It's because that's me. You know what I mean? Like,
Right, and that's
yeah,
it's
like
the
direct
gen.
direct quote, man, because you guys know good and well that if you don't wear your retainer, your braces didn't do shit. I say that to every single person. So
Yeah, and that's it's where it comes down to is people think that you're more genuine. Like
for sure.
you're not just going to come in and just start using big words, taking their money, and just cross your fingers that it's going to get better. And it's
Yeah.
the only option in this office is to get better. And I feel like when you start, the earlier you start conveying that message,
Yep.
the better off that patient's going to be.
Yep. Totally agree with you. Yep. I mean, like I had a patient today. I haven't had this happen in a while where she was like, it's an elderly gal, and she was, I mean, like a lot of low back pain. She was like dancing in the office last week, almost no symptoms. And then she came in today and had a huge regression. So nothing happened over the weekend, which is fine and all. But I literally told her, I was like, my job today is get you back on, or is to reinstill hope in you, so that you understand that you're still moving in the right direction. And like that's basically all I said. And she's like, okay, but it hurts right here. I was like, well, let me check it. And I had her, that's literally all I said. That was the whole conversation about her regressing and having 10 out of 10 pain again and losing hope and all that kind of stuff. I was like, we need to get you leaving here with hope. Let me check your back.
Yeah.
I didn't overcomplicate it. I didn't say inflammation. I didn't say facet syndrome. I didn't say blah, blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
So,
I like that for sure.
yeah, man. You got one more thing, but it's kind of nebulous. I don't know. Is there anything else you guys wanted to touch on before I get to my shenanigans?
Say and one thing that I want to kind of talk about is, so you opened your office, started out kicking butt, but it was, you
Yep.
feel, because of that marketing, which was disingenuine for you. Now you started making some changes around COVID. What were those changes? What sparked them? And how did you kind of start that process in your office?
Yeah. So one of the big things, and I don't think all of it was disingenuous, but I think I'll tell you this, I got really good at seeing new patients in a short amount of time, but I didn't do a good job of making connections in a short amount of time. And the other thing is there's a lot of people that were coming in that weren't right for my office, and kind of how I identified what I was. And really the first step is, once things started slowing down, I honestly just took, instead of, like, man, I mean, when we're going hours between patients and something like that, I mean, it's super easy to hop on YouTube. It's super easy to throw on a Netflix movie or something like that. You know what I mean? I the two things that I did was, I did a little bit. That's kind of when I started chewing on the zone technique stuff. But the other thing is, I literally just sat in my office. I just sat on my adjusting table and just spent time thinking about kind of what I envisioned my dream practice to be. Like what interactions were like. I thought over the last like 3 to 4 months which patients of mine I enjoyed spending time with the most, enjoyed the the wellness visits, the acute care visits the most. And like, what about it did I like? What about, like, who were what I'd call my favorite patients at the time, and how can I get 500 more of them? You know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff that I spent time thinking about. And then people just started coming in. I mean, like, I'm a pretty firm believer in the universal intelligence aspect of it all, that like, it's trying to think of a good. So
Law
this
of
is a
attraction.
Menard. Yeah, for sure. Like, you put out, you're gonna get back what you put out. Like, if you're, I'm sure you guys maybe have gone through this. That's happened to me a number of times. But if there's like a adjustment that I really want to work on, and I practice a lot, I get my spine out, I'm working on it or whatever, man, the next 5 new patients all need that adjustment. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
it's the same thing. Like, if you're looking for like a personality type, or you're envisioning somebody or something, or like, I want a new MBA, and you get like 3 new MBAs that week. You know what I mean? Like, whenever you're focused on something, it comes on in. So I literally just spent time thinking about who I would call my favorite patients over the last 4 to 6 months. And then we started having a lot come in. Another thing that we started doing kind of in the downtime was, we started amping up our social media game, lots more videos, that kind of stuff on Instagram and whatnot, and just adding a little bit of personality to our office, not trying to keep things so sterile. And we did a little bit of reaching out to some of the local businesses, but that didn't have much traction in our area because everybody's still locked down here. So we just tried to, I mean, keep things a little light, have some content, just short digestible things, just to gather some followers and whatnot. The other thing I did is I spent a lot of time focusing on my staff, like making sure that they understood the why. I didn't lay anybody off during the whole COVID crash on any of that stuff. For one, it would have affected my PPP. But the other thing is that uh, they're awesome, and I honestly have a dream team. Like, and I made sure that they understood that. I mean, it's something I'm curious to see how many people we can see because they're so good. But I have also spent so much time investing like philosophy and stuff like that into them. I mean, they are like Cairo warriors. I mean, they're not like just CAs up there. You know what I mean? Like, some of the stuff that they say to new patients, like on the phone, or like when somebody's checking out, I mean, like, surprises me sometimes. I'm like, how awesome some of the stuff that they say is. So I think, to summarize kind of what we did, or what I did, is focus on who I wanted to have 20 copies of, and just really thinking about those people. And then worked on, ingraining my staff, and then I did a little bit of amping up on social media, which I haven't sent. Like we haven't had anybody come in that said, "Yeah, I saw you on Instagram, so I decided to come in." But we've had a lot of people that have came in, started following us on Instagram and whatnot. So we'll see if that starts, paying off in 6 to 10 months or something like that. But
That's one of those things too, is you don't know, is like you said, you put what you put out, you get back. So you started putting some more energy into the social media. You
yeah,
might not see that directly, but I guarantee you there's somebody out there that has come into your office as a result of not just seeing your social media post, but then also talking to somebody that is a patient. It's
absolutely.
like that was the seed, and then that patient fully started supporting that.
Absolutely, man. And it's just like, we're all, maybe to a fault, we might have a little bit too much fun in the office with our patients, but like we are ourselves in the office. We're not trying to force us to be anything besides that. Like we'll joke around with our patients. Like I have this patient that every single time she comes off of traction, she's the only person, and I always think about her. She's like aggressively asks me how my day is, like before anybody else. Like I can't say like, hey, how are you doing, faster than she can. So today she rounded the corner and I didn't even say hi. I was just like, hey, how you doing? Like as fast, like literally as fast as I could do it. And both of us started laughing. We had a good time, and it was like a normal quick visit after that or whatnot. But like we're not afraid of, like, somebody does their hair, like, hey, your hair looks nice, like little things, or like breaking the monotony of a normal visit up. We try to like make them feel like family, to a fault. Like we had the best review ever. A new patient left us a review a couple of days ago that said better service than Chick-fil-A. So I just need to put that like on a wall or something. So
That, yeah, you need to quote that, frame that. That's awesome.
yeah, so that's kind of what we did between March and now. So I'm excited to see how things keep trajectory, or what's the trajectory moving forward.
And I know we talked a little bit prior to all this about your staff. So when you say
hmm
that you started giving them your why,
hmm
what were some of those conversations like? Like, were you just telling them what exactly?
Yeah, so like one of the first things is kind of, for me when I hired them initially, Rachel's been with me for almost a year, and Kelly's been with me for almost 9 months now. So, they're starting to get up there. And the foundation of groundwork is like my chiropractic story. Like what is it, and how is it more than just like, hey, my back hurts, hey, my neck hurts, like that was the foundational stuff. And then kind of expanding on that is, like all of my philosophy reading, any cool quotes that I hear, anything that like I'm working on, I make sure that I communicate that with them. And maybe I don't need to, but I enjoy going through the journey with them together of like, discovering and improving our all communal knowledge of chiropractic. Another thing that I make a huge point of, 100% of the time, if we have some success story or something small happens, some patient notices something, they say something, 100% of the time I tell my staff, so that's something we can celebrate as an office, just because like I'm the one adjusting them, but the staff has to make it a friendly environment, because they're the first and the last face they see every visit. They are equally important, and they have way more face-to-face interaction with the patient. So like they're huge parts in that, and I make sure that they know that. um,
That's
let's see.
awesome.
Yeah, they're both patients, and they both, have had stuff going on that we've worked. So they've noticed the improvements in themselves and in family members that they've brought in and that kind of stuff. Um, One of the other things is just kind of like breaking up the monotony of, like, well, I guess a couple of things. First off, I preach a lot like it's a team before everything. Like we're spending time, just the three of us in the office, and we have to have each other's backs, because like the patients are awesome and all, but if our dynamic is broken, then the patients are going to notice it, you know what I mean? So like we take a team for I make sure that they understand it's a team first approach, so that like as long as our dynamic is solid, nothing can, like we can take on anything kind of deal. So we're a pretty tight knit group of three. The other thing that I push myself on, and it kind of started with both hiring both of them, but I realized when I hired for different reasons, I needed to be more of a boss, like have a higher capacity as an employer in order to mentor and be an employer to these two girls for two different reasons. So one of the things that I challenge myself on, and this is, I don't know, maybe either an Ed Miletism or a Gary Vaynerchukism or something like that, but as a boss, as a mentor, your dream has to be wide enough to encompass those who work below you, and if not, it's time for them to start, looking somewhere else. So one of the things that I make sure that they're able to do is accomplish what they want to, under my vision, under my office goals, under my expectations, and that kind of stuff. because when they're motivated and they can get their dreams accomplished while still having the fire and the energy and the fulfillment from work, they're hungry all the time, just like I am, which is fantastic, because then I don't have to like give them incentives. It's not like they're just waiting for the paycheck to drop. I mean, like they they're fantastic, and it's kind of all started with some of that philosophical foundation stuff that we've worked on.
That's awesome. Yep. Cool. Brady, do you have any questions?
You have one last thing afterwards.
Go ahead and get into this.
So I can't explain it, Brady. I touched on Nick with this just a little bit, man. I wanted to like end with like a little bit of, hope, a little bit of carrot, a little bit of motivation for me. Man, the last patient that I had today, I gave without question the best adjustment that I've ever given in my life. I've never felt more connected. I've never felt more in tune with what I'm doing, and I've like when some of the greats, like the Sigafuses, the whoever you want to, the Reggie Golds, when they talk about like innate and tapping into it, like I felt like I scratched the surface of that today. Like I can't explain what I felt in the moment, but feeling that all the time is something I'm going to strive for. And the thing that I have to challenge myself on is I understand the importance of a cervical adjustment a heck of a lot more than a thoracic adjustment. Like the shitty thing is, but man, you can really half-ass like a T6 right or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that thing's going to improve, but you can't half-ass like an Atlas or an occiput adjustment. You know what I mean? So like I'm interested to get into the office tomorrow and compare take what I experienced and try to transfer that into tomorrow. But like doing a prone lumbar, doing hell even a side posture or a thoracic adjustment or something, like approaching every adjustment with the mastery of like trying to be like give the best adjustment is going to be very interesting, and it's going to be a journey, because like I wasn't even going to bring this up until it happened. It wasn't on my list, but like it's what I experienced. I don't really understand. And I want you to, as somebody who just really experienced that, I want you guys to know that like something exists out there, and I went through it, and like and I can't tell you what it is. I mean, her situation was she's been like a weekly wellness patient for over a year, and so I've adjusted this woman like I don't know 90 times, 80 times or something like that, because she went through active care first. And she always has occiput left and atlas right. I always do both of them, and usually a little click, a little baby bound movement, and then she has immediate relief of symptoms from like her headaches that she has, really high stress job and whatnot. And last week she came in. It was like I was punching a brick wall. Nothing moved that much, and it was the first time in over a year that I adjusted her, and she did not have immediate relief of symptoms. And I was kind of upset about that. She came back. She had to go out of town, and she came back today, and she's like, "I've had a headache all week," and I was like, "Time to go." So she laid down, set up on her left occiput, and like her head was like just pulsing a little bit, and I could tell that her muscles weren't ready to relax, and I just focused in on it, and I didn't think of anything. I can't tell you a single active thought that was in my head, but I mean I delivered the fastest adjustment, faster than I knew I could. It was the loudest cervical adjustment that maybe I've ever given as far as like a cavitation goes, and like her eyes got really big, her eyes started flashing, and then I went over to the right side, the same thing kind of happened, and I sat her up, and she was like, "Holy shit, what just happened?" And I was like, "I think that headache just went away is what happened."
Nice.
Is all I said. But man, like I don't know what it was, and I just want you guys to like, the more you focus, I hope that you guys experience sooner than later what I just went through, and I hope I experience what I just went through sooner than later again. But it's kind of nebulous, but I wanted to I guess share my little experience that I had this afternoon.
Yeah, no, man, that's awesome. And I think those are the types of reasons that they call this a practice. It's not because we're not adequate at doctors. It's because we're always trying to find new ways to get patients better and connect with them more. So that's the practice part. How are we connecting with them? And it sounds like you got onto something pretty awesome there. So
I don't know, dude. I immediately texted Tim, who's one of my mentors, and I said, dude, this is what I went through. Like, we got to talk, because I know you know what I'm talking about, and I need to speak to somebody about this. So he hasn't texted me back yet, little booger. So we'll see what he has to say about it.
Yeah, once you hear, you should let us know to see what he said. I know I've been adjusted by that man, and I swear to God, I've never had an adjustment like that before.
It's an experience, dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the interesting thing is that I always like when I got adjusted by Tim, it felt like everything moved so much. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't look like a big adjustment, but it felt like a big adjustment.
Right.
And but like I felt fantastic afterwards. You know what I mean? And like previously, before what I just happened, like this afternoon, whenever I felt like I had something that moved a lot, like sometimes patients were sore, sometimes they, like it was, whatever, mixed experience. But like it it felt like I gave what Tim gives on a regular basis, and then it like pissed me off. It's like, how does, like, he probably does this like, how does this happen? You know what I mean?
He probably does this on every patient. What is going
Every
on?
single adjustment, man. So yeah, that was like the first thing. I was upset in a good way. I was like, oh man, so this is what we're looking for. And then I was like, how does this happen? And like, this is gonna be weird. But I was like feeling my hands, and they felt kind of weird afterwards. And I was like, oh god, what do I do? I don't want to wash my hands. It's like I shook hands with a celebrity.
Right? I'm not dirty, but I'm
Yeah,
not washing
I
these.
know. I hugged my crush. I was like, ah.
That's awesome. No, that's cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. So that's all I had for today, though. So
Okay. Well, I
unless you guys have
appreciate
more
you.
questions, I'm an open book about all everything. So
See, I think that's the biggest ones is, I mean, when you first opened, so in school, you said that you were kind of, I guess, kind of open, but you still had a somewhat structured mindset of where you wanted to go.
yeah.
What do you mean by that? Like in school, what did you do?
I mean, I was really big into a specific management group all the way, and I didn't I didn't deviate too much from that because I figured I was in the kind of a different mindset of that. I thought, if this works, why wouldn't I do this? You know what I mean? Not necessarily like this is what I want to do, but like, hey, this is pretty proven. Like if somebody was like, hey, you want to, make the best sandwich shop or a pizza place, here's the blueprint, just do this. You know what I mean? Cool. I have a profit restaurant now. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what it felt like. And I had a business background. I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Why don't I do this? And then, but it wasn't like I didn't sink my teeth into it. It wasn't like I didn't make it my own. I just was like, oh, this is the playbook. I have to use this. You know what I mean? So
Right.
once I got out and realized that it wasn't my own and it didn't feel organic, that's when I went on, like, I don't know, a 12 to 15-month journey of of self-reflection.
So then that was after you graduated?
Yeah, after I graduated.
So
Yeah. I
how
mean, I
long
was
did,
open for a while.
okay, so you were already open while
Yeah,
you were
maybe like
going
3
through
months or
this.
so.
Okay.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
you were trying to figure this out, and what finally clicked?
I honestly, I don't know. I mean, like one of the biggest turning points in my professional career was I had well, you guys know Ryan Simpson, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was really tight with him in high school or in grad school, and I was just beating my head against the wall. I was like, so it wasn't that I wasn't, like, we were basically breaking even, so like it wasn't financially stressful per se. But like 3 months in, I was just like so miserable in practice. Like I wasn't getting the fulfillment. It felt like I was going to a job. It didn't feel like I was going to a calling, that kind of stuff. And I was like kind of getting to a point where I was dreading it at times, and I was really frustrated. And I was kind of venting to him about that, and he's like, dude, you really need to talk to Tim. And I've never, I mean, like Tim's, has mentors all these people. He had all this kind of stuff going on. And in all the time with the previous organization I was with, I mean, it was a pain in the ass to get somebody on the phone for a 5-minute phone call. You know what I mean? And Tim took like seriously no less than 45 minutes on the phone with me of like just talking to me kind of like off of a professional cliff and talking, I mean, just getting it in my head screwed back on straight, kind of zeroing in back to like why I became a chiropractor. What are like the core things that I'm looking for in practice, and what are some baby steps that need to happen to accomplish those? So we kind of just like really, I mean, I'm sure it was a lot like the military does. They like grind you down to who you are as a core, and then they start to build you back up again. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how it felt when I mean, it really felt like I threw out the lion's share of what I expected out of business and out of practice, and kind of went back to, I don't know, true neutral, and then started building things back up again.
So then during that transition, did your actual office procedures change, or was it more of a mentality thing?
Mentality for sure. Office procedures, I mean, I changed how I adjusted patients, and I changed how I presented care plans. Um, and that's probably it. Those are probably the two big things. I don't think day one probably didn't change too much. I started doing X-rays on people as soon as I could because it took me a second to get my machine, and then I didn't stop them. That's always been part of my day one procedure. And then yeah, so like technique and I guess feeling free to say what I wanted to was the two big things.
So yeah, patients didn't probably notice a huge difference. It was more your mentality. that
For
changed
sure.
the most. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's maybe like one of the big things to summarize a lot of what I've been saying is that like your mindset and what you bring to the table is the most important thing. At the end of the day, no one's coming to save you except yourself. You know what I mean? Like it's your business, it's your practice, it's your head space, and what you put out, you're going to get into it. One of the things that I like a lot, and I don't know who said it, is that average is the biggest enemy of extraordinary. And like at the end of the day, I mean, what are you doing that other people aren't? What are you doing that is special and unique to you? Like why would people come to your office instead of somebody else's? Those are some of the things that like I thought about for like 6 months, 9 months, or that kind of stuff. I mean, just like constantly work, not in like a self-depreciating way, like not like I can't have a hobby because I need to read this self-help book, you know what I mean? But like the just kind of tying everything back to the foundation of that, like I need to, as long as I'm right with me, I can take on anything, you know what I mean? And like the happier I got with myself, the better my marriage got, the better my relationship with my kids got, business started growing again. I mean, it all started with really just at a foundational level being, I mean, okay to be me again. And
Yeah.
that was something that I didn't understand was such a flaw, was that I always felt like I had to be a different version of me to that somebody said would work. And like once I got back to just being Taylor, you know what I mean? That's when things started growing and everything started getting better.
That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah, man.
Brady, you good?
Yep.
Sweet. Well, man, I got a lot out of it. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome, man.
I really appreciate it. I'll get this saved and posted. And for
Sweet.
anybody that doesn't know, where can they find you at?
So basically on all social media, it's fred.cairo is all my social media handles. I do a lot on there. If you're in Raleigh, North Carolina, you can come on in. But otherwise, my website's Fred Cairo as well. And then there's some good stuff on there sometimes.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next time.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Taylor.